So let's talk about Bitcoin. There are really two views or two narratives about Bitcoin today. In fact, if you look at some of the press, you'll see one big narrative. And if you look at another area of the internet, you'll see another narrative. The first is that it's a promising technology that's a new form of money, but it has a terrible side effect. That's one narrative. The second is more uplifting, that Bitcoin is the promise of a brighter future for financial services and hundreds of millions of people around the world. And it could even catalyze the renewable energy revolution. Let's start with the first narrative, the fact that there's a view that Bitcoin is a dirty coin and it's not sustainable. The question is why? Why has that view developed? Well, there's really three reasons. Number one is driven around the fact that there's a view that the technology uses a tremendous amount of energy. Some reports that you look at might say that it uses somewhere around just under 1%, maybe a tenth of 1% of the global levels of renewable energy. You can compare that to some countries. We've seen reports where folks compare it to the use of energy by Sweden, for example. And so there's a view that that is a wasteful use of energy and it's just growing at a limitless rate and therefore unsustainable. The second reason is that actors or participants on the network have been using technology and developing mining operations in parts of the world that are traditionally very carbon intensive, places like China, Russia, and other parts of the world. And it's well known that they use coal and other forms of energy to power these facilities. And the third reason is that, in my opinion, the society hasn't really put Bitcoin in a positive place in their mind. If you compare Bitcoin's energy consumption to data centers, for example, data centers use many times the amount of energy as Bitcoin. For example, Bitcoin uses, like I said, somewhere about 0.4% of the global usage, whereas data centers use about 3%, and it's growing to 8% of the global energy consumption. But we know what data centers are for. We use them every day. They power our social interactions. They power our relationships with people. They power our businesses. And so it's okay that they use a lot of energy. But I think that this narrative has some flaws, and it doesn't really give you the real view of the potential of this technology. So I want to talk about the other narrative, another way to look at the technology. In my view, there's Bitcoin capital B, and there's Bitcoin little b. Bitcoin little b is the source of freedom for hundreds of millions of people out there, especially in places where trust in the financial system really isn't, a primary thing. It's just not something people could rely on. And some people have lost all of their wealth in some parts of the African continent and in Asia. And today, hundreds of millions of people rely on this new technology to put their savings and their life worth someplace safe that can be moved anywhere in the world. When I first started in this industry, Bitcoin was somewhere around, I want to say, $70 billion in value or $7 billion in value. Today, it's approaching $700 billion in value. So Bitcoin is approaching over $700 billion in value and benefiting over 100 million people in the world. And the second thing I'd like to add from a positive perspective is that the energy use of the system is actually a feature, not a bug. The computer science, I am a computer scientist, and when I look at the computer science and technology and what the creators and architects of this technology had to do, and I'm talking about Bitcoin, the capital B now, it's very advanced and incredible, honestly. They solve some of the toughest problems in computer science. And so that energy is used to secure the records of all the transactions in the network, and that security protects those assets in a very specialized way. Mining companies that use energy and connect to these systems are stamping each of these transactions in a very tamper-proof way that protects those assets without requiring a central party for trust. That's pretty advanced and could set the foundation for incredible innovations in the financial services industry, very similar to how the internet accomplished this over the last 20 years. And the internet, by the way, was a decentralized technology just like Bitcoin. And in its early days had similar concerns about its worth, its value, its energy usage, its infrastructure support. And so it's interesting to see the parallels between these two and the potential of them both. And the third element is the computing. The type of computing that is happening on the Bitcoin Capital B network to support the Bitcoin monetary system is an advanced set of technology, but there's an interesting characteristic of it in that it can be paused or made batchable. You can put a process that's sort of protecting the network to sleep and wake it back up again. And you can do this anywhere in the world, so it's a very portable process. And as a result, these characteristics actually make it very beneficial as a new load or new consumption platform for renewable energy. You can use this type of computing to absorb excess power or excess renewable energy, which is probably one of the biggest challenges with renewable energy development and the green transition that is underway today. And so, that's what we're doing at Soluna. We're using this advanced new technology and giving it another amazing application that will be positive and valuable to the world. And that can perhaps help to put Bitcoin in a positive place in America's psyche and continue to develop the technology. I'm pretty bullish about it. I'm pretty excited about the technology, especially as it relates to what we're doing at Soluna, and that is using this type of computing and other types of computing like AI and machine learning to unlock the potential of renewable energy. And with Soluna and what we're doing out there, we can help renewable energy developers sell every megawatt. And so it's interesting to see a parallel between what's happening in Bitcoin and renewable energy coming together. Thank you.